This is Tuesday, May 23rd. There are 57 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2023. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
BANUHTEE go. Oh my God, I love Live Journal and my Live Journal must be current food inside interactive, current news, Refuge 73. I love the color scheme, it's pink and purple.
Hello, all. I am your host, James Riley, and joining me on the podcast, as always, Carrie Dixon.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
And our special guest this evening, the president of Inflatable Design Group, Shawn McEachern.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
All right. So welcome, everyone, to another 1 week closer to Comic-Con, and we're going to take your comments and questions during the show. You can tweet us at SD_comic_con or use the hashtag SDConCast, and we will also be keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat if you wish to comment or ask questions there. But first up, let's talk to Shawn. And Carrie, why don't you get us started?
Hi, Shawn. Thank you again for joining us.
Okay.
So Inflatable Design Group has created so many of the iconic inflatables that we've seen at the convention over the years, from last year's Ozzy Osbourne and the Bat Wheels logo that was on Petco last year, to the Adult Swim Funhouse, to the Snoopy house for the Peanuts movie, to a couple years ago, there were these giant, the regular show Mordecai and Rigby's that were on top of the new Children's Museum.
Yep.
And just amazing. So what I want to know is, how did you even get into this business?
Well, it's been a long time. We're talking almost 27 years ago. I was just out of college and I started working for the sports arena, and my boss had told me that there was an opening for an inflatable company, and thought that I would be, a good candidate for it. And so I went and interviewed for that, started working for this small little inflatable company, and I loved it. The person I was working for wasn't the most ethical, honest person. All the vendors and employees that were in that place were great workers and great people. And they told me, why don't you start your own? And I was only 23 years old at the time. And I said, hey, why not? So I gave it a shot, and I opened up a little office in my apartment, and I sold and subcontracted out the work. And slowly but surely, year by year, we started to bring it in-house. And, then I got a warehouse, and then, employees working under me, and sewers and designers and amazing artists. And all of a sudden it was under one roof and just started to grow ever since.
So what really goes into creating a custom inflatable? Like, I know nothing about this process.
This is what makes it fun every day, is the ability to create something. A lot of different ways it comes about. There's clients, especially when it comes to Comic-Con, where there's a specific character or a specific shape or a logo, and they give that to us with certain colors and sizes that they want. And then we've got to come up with a way to create that into an inflatable. And, from the process of talking to the client to maybe a conceptual mock-up that we might do, showing size and colors and shape, and then watching it go through the process and having our designers come up with the patterns to be able to cut the specific shapes of the fabric, and have piles of fabric in all these different shapes and bundle to a sewer, who then is given instructions to show how piece A1 goes with piece A2. And you're talking sometimes thousands and thousands of pieces, and it's like a giant puzzle that gets all sewn together. And then there's that rewarding feeling when you see it blown up, maybe with artwork or without, and you see that first attempt at the shape and it's coming together. And then slowly but surely we start adding art to it and start bringing it to life to where it's a complete inflatable and ready to go to an event like Comic-Con.
So how long does all of that take normally?
Depending on our production schedule, and 27 years under our belt now, we're very well known for high custom quality inflatables. So our production schedule right now takes anywhere from 8 to 9 weeks normally. That doesn't necessarily mean all 8 to 9 weeks goes into that project. It's just the flow of our production schedule. But if you take, for example, like the Ozzy Osbourne inflatable that we had there last year, that's 25 feet tall, it probably took about 50 to 60 hours of just my designer creating a 3D model, taking that 3D model and developing all the pattern pieces that are shaped to make the character and make it specific so that it's Ozzy and not just a general shape that then we just put art on. I mean, cheekbones, nose, eyes, features that he has, nails that he has, every little detail that goes into the shape has to be created. And then what the designer then at that point too, then creates those pattern pieces that get to our cutting department that nests it into our cutting machine. That machine then lays it all on a table so that we can drop a razor down, cuts the pieces, but then also drops a pencil to mark the pieces down. So the process is just that start of it is immense, and how to make sure we get the first steps going correctly. And then from there, it's like I said, we have bundles of fabric that are all labeled, and then those sewing instructions to put all those to potentially hundreds to thousands of pieces of fabric together. And then we have an amazing airbrush artist who will, look at it and, it's basically a piece of fabric that's shaped like him, but then all of a sudden the features start coming to life when you start putting the airbrush or the paint behind it.
Just amazing.
There's a lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more going on here than we ever thought. You just walking along, hey, look, it's Ozzy. Like, that's all we do.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very intense, labor-intensive project that just goes from, again, designed to cutting, to amazing sewers that we have, to incredible airbrush artists, or digitally printing logos or artwork or pieces of it that then goes back to sewing to get sewn into it. So it's a heck of a process, and it takes a lot of labor hours and a lot of experience. That's where I'm very fortunate. Over 27 years, I've got some of my employees and an amazing team that, some of my sewers have been with me for over 20 years.
Wow, that's great.
So we've got a great team that all work together, and it's fun when we start something like an Ozzy Osbourne and we see the picture of it, and then all of a sudden we're in our back of our warehouse blowing them up, and there's Ozzy Osbourne. And the best part about it is, we're on a pretty busy street, and it's funny to see some of the stuff we blow up just stop traffic.
Wow. So we're going to circle back to Ozzy in a little bit, but
Okay.
I just want to know, like, is there anything that someone came to you and pitched? Because Hollywood's known for kind of being a bit out there with their requests.
Yeah.
Is there anything that they've come out and said and asked for that is just impossible to make into an inflatable?
I never say impossible. I always say challenging, sometimes unachievable, but never impossible. We've come up, if you guys have gone back to the Comic-Con and seen that Snoopy house, no one would have been able to tell you that we can make an inflatable house that's 50 feet tall and takes up most of the parking lot next to Petco Park. And then have a slide in it and have a giant room in it that you can put all kinds of, different activities through it. Most people would say that's impossible. We say it's a great challenge. Bring it on.
That's amazing. Yeah, it really is. I want to know, what sort of instances do you think like an inflatable really makes sense for a company? Like what are the benefits basically of you doing an inflatable at something like Comic-Con, in your opinion?
The beauty of the inflatable and why it's such an amazing marketing tool is, where else can you take a piece that's 25 feet tall like Ozzy Osbourne was, and literally roll it up in a bag and put it in the front seat of your car and take it to the next event? And then all you really need is power. You plug it in, you guide it up, you tie it down, and you've got a 25-foot billboard that's advertisement for you.
So we were going to ask about this because we've had a lot of questions like, are these reusable? What happens to them like after Comic-Con? Is Ozzy Osbourne in someone's backyard right now?
Well, Ozzy went on tour.
Okay.
He literally went on tour. We did that Ozzy. So from Comic-Con, it left and went all across the country and had stops everywhere. And literally on the middle of the road in some places where you would just see Ozzy and people would be pulling over for photo ops with him, in front of concert venues, in front of record stores. That's the beauty of, again, being able to take something that's so big, has such a presence, looks exactly like him, blow it up 25 feet tall after the event, roll it up, put it in the back seat of your car and drive it to the next event. That is the perfect example of how you use a custom inflatable to your benefit for a great advertising tool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what do you personally like working on Comic-Con inflatables more than some of the other stuff? I have to imagine that just like some of the prompts are a little bit more fun, you know, than your average, normal, everyday inflatable.
Again, we love a challenge at Inflatable Design Group. And when you come up with characters, and especially cartoon characters, you know, and I get it. There's a lot of time and money and years of planning to put a character together. So they're very important. You can't just create a shape and just put some art on it and say, here's your character. It needs to look like it. And again, that's why these companies come to us, is because we're going to make it look like your character. It's going to be an inflatable version of your character, but it's going to look like a character. There's not going to be any you won't be able to deny who it is or what it is. And that's why, you know, we're chosen as the #1 company to work on these type of custom inflatables. And they're fun because, again, it's not just making a circle and put an art on it. We're creating a really custom shape that very few companies can do. And it's fun, again, to start with that maybe conceptual just drawing to then blowing it up and saying, wow, that's great work, guys. That's and our team feels good about it when we blow it up outside and say, wow, we nailed it.
Do you have any favorite ones from Comic-Con over the last couple of years?
Oh boy. Last year was fun with Tuca and Birdie putting that on a barge and floating that through San Diego. I'm sure that probably opened up a lot of eyes as people were driving by or going over the Coronado Bridge or anywhere on the bay, and then seeing those guys just laying on their floaties going across the San Diego Bay. Those were great ones. And those were also then in a different promotion, went through the Los Angeles Bay, through New York's harbor. And again, just an incredible promotion where you can take a barge and take two inflatables, and the length of both of them together was over 100 feet long and over 30 feet tall. So again, just a great way to have an exposure for the type of marketing that you're wanting to showcase, which was a premiere or Comic-Con in both instances.
So it's something like that. They're out on a barge, but also the Ozzy is along a walkway. So there's probably going to be some safety concerns that have to be taken into consideration when putting them on display, because it can't be just inflate them and hope it doesn't leak and fall over or whatever.
Absolutely. Very important with any inflatable. And I'm sure the inflatable bounce companies or bounce houses get a really bad rap in that it's not necessarily the inflatable fault. It's the user fault if you don't anchor them down or properly support them so that they don't blow away or they don't fall down. So again, when we're constructing these inflatables, that's always taken into consideration is the type of fabric we're using, where we're putting anchor points to be able to take tether straps and anchor them down. Around the base, are we being able to support the base, maybe using sandbags or steel stakes to go into the grass? All of these are taken into consideration. Not only do we have to make a beautiful looking inflatable, we have to make a very functional inflatable that works for what it is made for and is safe. And that way, when everyone follows the instructions on how to set up and take it down, then these inflatables are really safe and again, can be used over and over again.
So what happens when an inflatable does get a leak? How do you find it and fix it?
Good question. So our type of inflatable is what we call in our industry a cold air inflatable, meaning that it's stitched. So there's a blower that gets put on there and it runs constantly. So air is going through seams. So in order for the inflatable to have a leak or a tear that affects it, it has to be big enough so that the constant flow of air is affecting how it's standing. So let's say we get a little tear in there and it's on maybe Ozzy's black pants. Well, we always give you a patch kit that has black fabric and a vinyl cement glue, or even a clear tape, depending on what kind of tear it is. And you can usually cut a circle bigger than the hole in the inflatable and glue on a patch, or take some of the clear tape and put that over there. And that usually does it. But again, we also try to service our customer as much as we can. And again, the beauty of these inflatables is you can pack them up really small, ship them to me, I fix it, I get it right back to you.
Nice.
Just amazing. We have had a couple reader questions that I wanted to get to real quick.
Okay.
Wa in the chat asked, in those 27 years, what was the biggest inflatable project you've worked on?
Wow. So we've worked on a lot of big ones. About 20 years ago, we did a Power Rangers experience that was a bunch of planets that connected to each other with a series of tunnels. And you go through a tunnel into a giant planet of about 30 foot in diameter. It'd be a bounce house. You go through a tunnel and go into another giant 30-foot planet, and that would be a slide inside of it, and so on and so on. And it encompassed such a large area that at the time, it was the Guinness Book of World Records largest inflatable ever made per volume.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That was big, obviously. For Halloween, there it is. For Halloween, we do what's called our creature or our beast or our monster. And it basically looks like a giant lizard. And when you look at him, he's basically menacing, and you go through his mouth, and through the entire lizard's body is a haunted house. And that is about 160 feet long, 30 to 40 feet wide, and about 30 feet tall. And it's made to slow down and be very dark inside, have the ability to put sound and lights and different type of things that you could walk through it, and it creates a maze from mouth to the end of the tail, and it's a haunted experience.
Just amazing.
Yeah, I threw that picture up too. That thing looks cool.
It really, really is fun. And I'll tell you, it costs a lot up front because obviously it's big and an expensive inflatable, but it's been very successful for the operators who put it up during Halloween at the beginning of October, charge everyone who goes through that. And within a year, most of those operators have covered their costs and are making pure profit before year 2.
So that actually leads me into our next reader question, which is Aaron asked, what is the lifespan of an inflatable? Again, as long as it's treated well, but
Right.
if you do treat it well, how long would it last?
Different types of inflatables will last different times. For example, like, again, we keep going back to Ozzy, but let's just say any kind of standing character or just an advertising piece that just gets blown up and taken down. There's not a lot of climbing or dragging or interactivity with someone on it or playing with it. So if you take good care of it, and taking good care of it means cleaning it often, just getting a lot of the surface dirt off of it. Don't drag it on the concrete when you take it down to roll it up. Don't pack it away wet, because then if you pack that away wet for a long period of time, you get moisture in there and mildew. So if you do those type of inflatables can last you an awful long time, 10, 15 years, if not longer.
Oh, wow.
Now, we have done a lot of custom inflatable bounce houses and slides and obstacle courses and those type of things, again, with good care, minimum 5 years, could take 10 years, just depending on, again, if there are little tears, if it does get dirty, if it does get wet, are you taking care of those things right away? Then it's just going to last you longer. The difference between what we make and, let's say, your Christmas inflatables that go out on your front lawn is the fabric we use, the stitching we use. They're very industrial, heavy duty type of inflatables, and not your, once a month or once, holiday type of thing that's very thin, less expensive type of material.
Absolutely. And SMS, so let's say an inflatable is at the end of its lifespan. What do you do with an inflatable after that? Would you cut them up, repurpose them, or it's just been too long? So
most of the time, unfortunately, there's just not much we can do with it, because by the time they come to us at that point, they've used their useful life is over now, and we just have to dispose of it. We'll cut it up and then dispose of it.
makes sense.
But most of the time, again, it's not something we would do, it's the client, because we're a custom manufacturer. So once we sell it to the client, it's, not ours anymore, it's theirs.
Makes sense. It's possible you've already answered this, but Slave to Leia asked, what is the weirdest inflatable that you've done, do you think?
Oh,
Or
boy.
the strangest?
Someone else mentioned this one in the chat. I think it was Mom mentioned this one. So I'm just going to share it real quick and see if this one comes up as maybe the weirdest one.
Oh, that's, our inflatable colon. Definitely done a lot of those, as well as other inflatable medical body parts for educational purposes. Those have been very successful, obviously, for a lot of reasons, in that, it's very educational, and what way to learn about a colon is to walk through one. And again,
Certainly
it's very
unique
accurate.
perspective. Yeah.
And it's very accurate. We've had to work with doctors and had to be very accurate in all of the things that go into a colon, all the good and the bad.
Crazy. So we've talked a lot about inflatables outside, but you also do inflatables inside. And I wanted to mention, I know you've done like an inflatable for, I think it's Be Cute. I think that's how we say their name, at their booth at the convention.
Yep.
Are there different considerations then for an inflatable inside versus outside?
We could use different types of fabric. Maybe has to be as heavy because you're not going to get as much weather wear and tear on it. You probably want it a little bit lighter, so it's just easier to move. Maybe with not as many anchor points because you're not having to worry about wind. But inside, we try to make inflatables so that you're not only using it inside, because what happens in different events where they're going to want to take it outside. So again, with the types of fabric and thread and the way we make our inflatables, they're very durable and can most of the time, be used indoors and out. And for also indoors, we do an awful lot of concert stage sets. That's a really big deal. Again, from what I was talking before about being able to transport them, I mean, that's the perfect scenario for a concert when you have so many things between lighting and rigging and all these huge set pieces that got to go into these, massive containers, and ship them from city to city or country to country is extremely expensive, where you can roll something up and be a quarter of the size of how it packs and how much it weighs, saves a ton in shipping, a ton in time and setting up and taking down.
Yeah. Hey, James, will you open up screen sharing real quick? I wanted to show a picture of this Be Cute one, because I don't know, I just had never really thought about an inflatable kind of like at someone's booth. But now that I see this, I'm like, it makes total sense.
Right.
And I also have to imagine that like, you don't have to be a WB or an Adult Swim, to be able to have an inflatable. Like there are obviously other options. So here, let me share my screen real quick. Isn't this cute?
Yeah, he was
So
really
cute.
cute. And what's the beautiful part about that inflatable is, again, the person that bought that came to our facility because we're in San Diego, picked it up in a small little bag and literally carried it to his booth, plugged it in, and within less than 30 seconds, his most iconic part and eye-catching part of his decorative part of his booth was up and ready to go.
Yep.
Not
And just
having
what a fun, just what a fun idea, like for your booth. And again, I like that you don't have to be, an Adult Swim or a WB, like to have an inflatable. So
Exactly.
that's nice.
And again, booths sometimes take a long time to put together and take a long time to take down. He plugged it in. He was up in 30 seconds. When he was ready to pack up and get out of there, he unplugged it and put it back in its bag and walked out with it. Very simple, very easy, and a great looking, advertising piece for him.
And as someone who has set up at Comic-Con before, yes, ease of up and down is a huge plus.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, I know we absolutely know you cannot tell us what you have planned for this year, but can you tell us if we can probably expect another inflatable from you this year at Comic-Con?
100%. You're going to see some really cool inflatables this year. Can't tell you what they are, so you're just going to have to go down and check it out.
Have you started on them? Have you started on them already?
Yes, we're in the design process right now. Again, from a timing standpoint, this is about it. We've locked it in. Designs locked in. We've ordered our fabric for it, which is, our first step, making sure we've got the proper colors for the fabric, got it on our production schedule. Our designer is now starting to lay out all the patterns for it. And I'm really excited for you guys to see this one. It's going to be really cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, we are very excited to see that. Well, I think then, Shawn, that we are probably going to let you go, but why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you and where they can find Inflatable Design Group?
Yes, please go to our website at inflatabledesigngroup.com. You can check out all the awesome custom inflatables we've done, from Comic-Con to a lot of concerts. We work with all the major sports teams, universities, high schools, mom and pop shops. You have an idea that we can inflate, we'll do it.
Actually, I have a
Our
question.
phone number there at the office is 619-596-6100. And again, if you have any ideas of an inflatable that we can help advertise your product, give us a call.
I actually have a question that some people may want to know. Are you available for like tours or walkthroughs or anything like that? Or is it like too?
You know, unfortunately not, because of safety issues, and
Gotcha.
walk you through the warehouse. And again, we're up against such deadlines. You know, our work with being custom and working with events and concerts, everything is to a certain timetable. That I wish we had more time to do that, because I know it's a fun process to watch, but unfortunately we just wouldn't be able to do that.
All right.
But if you want to come in, I'll give you a tour.
Oh, sweet.
He just might take you up on that.
Anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Shawn. This was really fun. I had no idea that this much work went into inflatables. So you guys do amazing work.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right.
We are going to stay on then and cover the news. And James, do you want to start?
Yes. I'm going to wait for Shawn to drop. There he goes.
There he goes.
Awesome. That was awesome. Man,
it was really fun. Yeah.
Sounds like such a fun
guest.
job though, but so much work.
Yes.
So what are we doing now?
We're doing the news.
We're doing news. Okay, first. Man, you keep giving me the bad news ones. Did that on purpose.
I thought you would be nicer about this than I would.
Oh, okay. So Sideshow Collectibles is skipping San Diego Comic-Con for the first time in about 20 years. To focus on virtual experiences, which they've been doing their Sideshow Con regularly for a few years now. And apparently it is doing well enough that they don't feel like they need to have the expense of going to the convention and having the booth and all the workers and all of that stuff, even though it was personally for me amazing to see some of those things and to get some cool photos of the stuff that they bring down there that I will never own. But they have so much awesome stuff, and I guess we'll just have to check it out online and going forward, see what happens.
Yes, absolutely. I do just want to say though, we've seen like a lot of people who, because Sideshow is skipping, say that like there's going to be no big booths on the floor this year. There are big booths that skip every single year, and then sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't, but the floor is always still crowded. So it will be okay. We promise. In good news, the Fox animated series Krapopolis has plans for San Diego Comic-Con 23. We don't know what those plans are. Last year, they did quite a lot. They were the big wrap on the Omni. They did a panel. They had a 70-foot slide. They had merch at Toddland's other booth. They did an autograph signing. And still, a year later, not a single episode has aired, but it's already been renewed for 3 seasons.
That's crazy.
Which is wild to me. Like,
I know animation is so different than normal stuff because of the lead times and how, I mean, it's not as expensive as live action. So I know that a lot of time they get renewed for 2 seasons just because they can get the workflow going right. But still, 3 seasons before an episode is aired is kind of crazy.
Yes. Well, I'm like, with as big as they went last year, I'm like, I don't know that it will have aired like a single episode before Comic-Con happened. So that's just crazy to me. Yeah. But it very much sounds like they'll be back. So that's exciting.
Of things that are back or coming for the first time, but kind of back for something else is now I might mispronounce the name, but Alaqua Cox, who plays Echo previously in Hawkeye, and is going to be in her own show coming up later this year. I think it was on Snapchat. She answered that she has plans to be at San Diego Comic-Con on July 22nd, which is a Saturday. And when our
James
Marvel Hall H panels, usually on Saturday. So this is pretty good sign that we're going to get at least one thing for panels. And I think what that means is basically when Kevin Feige at the end of the panel last year said, we'll be seeing you next year. This is just more confirmation that we'll be seeing them this year.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think as well. If you want to know what other TV shows we think might be heading to the convention, again, all of which is dependent upon these strikes, you can check out our cable and streaming posts, which I did yesterday. We will be posting broadcast tomorrow and then Family Networks on Friday. But again, all of that is dependent upon the strikes, which we'll talk about here in a second. If you would like a commission, we have a bunch of artists already listed on our open commission list that Andy keeps updated. We added even more today. So if you are at all interested in a commission, you can check out our post and find some awesome art. We love commissions. It's a great way to take home a custom original piece of artwork from the convention. We had a couple reader questions real quick that I wanted to get to. Xavier said, rumors are that the Continental show will be there. We posted in an Under the Tents a while back about one of the producers basically saying that they hope they will be there. I think odds are very good just because it's John Wick and it's a TV show that comes out around Comic-Con, and that sounds very much like something that'll be at the convention. So I think the odds are very good there. And then Slave to Leia asked, do you think WBDC will return to the exhibit floor this year? I don't know, but I am always hopeful. And there are plenty of instances of big booths skipping one year and then coming back the next. Dark Horse is a good example. They skipped last year and they're back this year. So it is entirely possible.
All right. Well, that's about it for news. Actually, real quick, let's answer this one from Larissa. Do you think there will be a HopCon at Stone Brewery for a cosplay event this year? Are they doing HopCon this year, or was that the last one?
I don't know, actually. Let me reach out to them and I will ask and try to get an answer for you.
All right. We'll find out.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Yep. Yes.
All right, so we're moving to offsites. And the first is that Kevin Smith will be returning with his live shows like Fat Man Beyond. And movies will be back, correct?
We think. So he for sure confirmed that like the live shows will be back. And he said, basically, we're doing everything the same as last year, which to me means movies is back, but he did not actually say the words movies is back. He did say Hollywood Babylon and Fat Man Beyond would for sure be there. So I think so, but I'm not 100%.
All right. So if they are, I expect the reservation system to be the same, where you can book them in advance and get some movies. Get your grub on.
Yep. Okay. And then we wanted to mention a couple of parties that XLE is hosting, starting with Ready Party 1, which I don't think we talked about last time. Maybe we did. If we did, I apologize. Ready Party 1 will be on Wednesday night. It's preview night. They've had this party for several years. This year's theme is 8-Bit Legacy, which is basically Mario. Then on Thursday, they will have Nick at Nightclub, which is all about 90s childhood nostalgia. And then on Friday is going to be the Monsters Ball. All of these events will be at Park. And if you've never been to XLE's parties before, they're fun. There's a dance floor, there's theming, there's drinks. So if that's your scene, like these are cool parties to check out. So
yes. And speaking of Park Nightclub, we got more information about the Hellfire Gala from D23, and the tickets will be going on sale tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific. It is 21 and up only. There's going to be some theming around the island of Krakoa with the Green Lagoon, green carpet entrance, the Lair X dedicated to 60 years of iconic history. There's going to be a dance floor, a bar, a seating area, photo ops, all of that. You'll get a drink ticket and a commemorative gift with your ticket. And for D23 members, the price is $65 or $85 for expedited entry. And for regular D23 members, it is $125 for entry and $155 for expedited entry. You can get tickets for you and up to 3 guests.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so our first exclusive that we're going to talk about is actually this print from Patrick Ballesteros. It is called Better with Friends. It's an 8x10, limited to 75 pieces. It is an actual San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and it's $25. But if you have seen the new Guardians movie, you know exactly what this is all about. Yeah, and it's gorgeous and sad. His other print is a Showdown in San Diego, Battle of the Pops. And if you've been following along, he's been doing this thing called the Pop Cycle Pack, which is basically where these original characters head to different quote unquote popsicle stands that are pop culture themed each month leading up to San Diego Comic-Con. And it's all going to culminate in his big exclusive piece this year where they actually make it to Comic-Con. This one is not an exclusive. It'll be an open edition available for $20. It's 8x8 and it's got, you know, a fun little kaiju there who you may recognize.
All right. And so are we just going to keep swapping sharing screens, or do you want one of us to just stay on?
Let's just swap screens.
All right. So I guess I'm gonna share a screen now. This is what happens when I drive in from Arizona today and get here a half hour before the podcast goes live.
Yep.
So you get share screens instead of fancy slides because obviously Beth was with me and could not create them.
That's okay. That's okay.
So here is Dan Wiesemeyer's new exclusive. And it's the Rogan Gambit print from with an homage to X-Men number 24. So this one will be 11x14, $20 each. And if any remain, then they will be available after the show. And his commissions are also open if you want to check out the commissions post for more details. But that is all the information that's on the screen now.
Yep, you are correct. All right, the information on my screen is all about Hallmark. So Hallmark will be back. They will have multiple booths as always. New this year, they're starting off with an exclusive that will have limited availability at the convention, and then the rest will actually be online tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Is this Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Darth Revan? I don't even know. Revan ornament for $30. The rest of these are actually exclusive to Comic-Con and New York. They'll be split between the two, which means like this one from the Book of Boba Fett, if it says 3,000, expect 1,500 at San Diego. It's $30. There's a Boba Fett Funko Pop ornament for $15. A Doctor Who ornament for $25, which I do just want to point out, if you are like me and just bought this ornament around Christmas time, this is a repaint. And they even say that somewhere in here. A repaint.
2022 Doctor Who ornament.
Yep.
Is the easiest way to make an exclusive on it is for a lot of companies.
Yep. I just thought it was funny that they just like straight up admitted it. Harry Potter, Luna Lovegood, Cheers for Gryffindor ornament for $25, and then a Dragon Ball Z Brawly Funko Pop ornament for $15. They did not mention anything about the free buttons that they normally do at the booth, but who knows? They may still show up.
So we had a couple of exclusives revealed-ish from NECA. And let me get over to that now. And the first one is this, let me see here. It's from the Secret of the Ooze. It's Roy's Greenwich pizza box. And inside you get Ernie Reyes playing, I can't remember the character's name. It's on there, Kino. And the scooter and all of that cool stuff. So look at that. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
And then the second reveal is these will be coming.
It's for Teenage Mutant. Yeah, it's for the third movie. It'll be them in their samurai gear. Yeah,
they're going to be in the giant VHS box. All 4 figures will be in the one box. And we don't have much other information yet. Obviously, we just have this teaser picture, but you can expect them to be the same quality that you expect from NECA. And I think they said that they're going to be all new molds. And
I think so, yeah.
With some cloth robes. So these should be some pretty good looking toys.
Yeah. And just like usual, they'll be doing their pre-sale. They said that will happen in mid-June on the stream today. So keep an eye out for that. All right, let me share my screen. All right, Toddland revealed their Bob's Burgers Pride collection today, or actually we revealed Toddland's Bob's Burgers Pride collection today. And they do this every June. So they've got, their Burger of the Day shirt, a bunch of other shirts. They've got some really fun tie-dye ones. They've got totes. They've got pens. They've got stickers. They've got it all. So and they've also brought back they're re-releasing the Tino Funko Pride Pop. All of this will launch on his site on tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. because everything's happening tomorrow morning. 50% of proceeds will go towards It Gets Better, which is a nonprofit focused on connecting LGBTQ plus youth. If you are in Florida, shipping is free. As Todd said, due to totally a glitch or something. You can draw your own conclusions about that. So yeah, all of that will launch at 10 a.m. Pacific tomorrow. So if you love Bob's Burgers and Pride merch, this is an awesome way to support a charity, get some cool stuff, and more.
All right. That wasn't that hard.
No, not at all.
That was totally very exciting for our viewers too, to see those things swapping back and forth. Very exciting.
Very exciting. I also just wanted to mention that yesterday's exclusives are now available for pre-order, which is going to be the San Diego tees. This year they're doing the ringer tees in 2 different colorways. We're going to share our screen one more time because why not? Why not? So here are the ringer tees in 2 different colorways. They are $30 each, or they've also got the Misfit tee. The difference here is going to be in the trading card. The SDCC only one is color. The shipping one is black and white, but those are $35. They are available now, so you can pre-order them. And for the SDCC stuff, you can pick up at their booth, which is always nice and easy.
All right. Is there any other news on our site?
There is. You can find all the news on our site that we didn't mention, like on our calendar or under the tents, etc., etc. You guys know the drill. I do just want to take a moment to talk about the strike. So I'm sure some of you are sick of me talking about the strike. We're going to keep talking about it every week because I want everybody to be prepared. So the Writers Guild of America is striking now. Surely most of you know that. It's the WGA. They're striking against the studios. So a lot of your favorite TV shows are currently not in production. But not only that, the writers cannot promote their WGA projects. WGA projects would be like film and TV writing. It does not necessarily apply to animation or comics or books or any of that. It's only film and TV. But what's been happening is that conventions like ATX, they had to cancel several of their panels because the writers couldn't attend. And so what they did instead was they are still holding a couple panels about like general writing, but not a TV show specific writing one, or they're holding like a WGA specific panel, but again, because they're on strike, they cannot promote their projects with the studios. So that for sure has the potential to affect Comic-Con because a lot of shows are not in production. A lot of things may not, if they are still striking during the convention, a lot of shows may not show up. A lot of your writers will not be on the panels. But the bigger concern for Comic-Con is that the DGA, which is the Directors Guild, and SAG, which is the Screen Actors Guild, their contracts end June 30th. And everybody is gearing up for both of them to start striking as well on July 1st. And if that happens, actors will not be at Comic-Con to promote their studio projects. I just need everybody to understand that. Like, it's crazy to think about, but that is a very real possibility.
Yes, it's possible. And we won't know until we get closer if it's actually going to happen or not. So
no, for sure.
And it's the reason why we are bringing it up every week, to keep it. I mean, if you, obviously a lot of us are entertainment focused and we do pay attention to that, but some of us are not. And we just want to make sure you're aware that there may be something happening that is going to affect Comic-Con if it's still happening when Comic-Con happens. So
I see a couple comments in the chat asking, like, have the actors joined them yet? SAG vote happening now. So again, SAG and DGA, their contract does not end until June 30th. So neither the DGA or SAG would officially be on strike until July 1st. What is happening right now is like the strike authorization vote, which means like they are voting whether or not, if an agreement is not reached by June 30th, if they can go on strike on July 1st. That's actually what's happening right now. It does not mean that the DGA or the actors are on strike right now. They may reach an agreement before Comic-Con. The Writers Guild may reach an agreement before Comic-Con. But again, we just want everybody to be aware that this is a very real possibility, and that, you know, Comic-Con may look very different this year. But as James said, we won't know yet. But you also have to imagine that, like, Comic-Con and some of these studios, they're probably going to have to make a decision like before July 1st. So
we had a question from Stephanie, who asked, do you expect to see more booths move their exclusives to the portal? And this really is kind of a mix of if they request it and if CCI thinks that they need it. So like Funko obviously is a madhouse, and there would be a lot of problems and there were a lot of problems when it was just lining up. So it gets moved to the portal. They're basically forced to, from what I understand. But I think like last year we had Jazzwares for the first time in the portal, and it's possible that they might have just requested to be on the portal. Since they were a new entry, they hadn't really sold a massive amount of collectibles there or exclusives before. Maybe they requested it so that they could have, you know, the set times for selling without having to do all that work themselves. But it's basically, we don't know. It's if Comic-Con thinks they need it, and if the customers, the vendors may be able to request it.
Yeah, I will say though, I would not expect like a huge influx. Like, I'm not expecting like 30 vendors in the portal this year or something. Like, I think, you know, we might have like 1 or 2 substitutions or additions or things like that, but I'm not expecting like every vendor to be in the portal. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. And with and Hasbro dropped out, and they're likely going to, because it seems to be their model now to offer QR codes and just let people fight for it online and not really be an actual Comic-Con exclusive, I guess. But that seems to be the way they're going. They've done it at multiple conventions now, not just Comic-Con. So I think that Hasbro's basically done as a convention, pick it up at the convention exclusive kind of thing.
Yep. That's totally what I think as well.
Okay, so as usual, as Carrie mentioned, the website has a bunch of stuff like the Under the Tents, but we also have a contest hub if ever any tickets are available on auctions or contests or anything like that. We will mention.
And we do have some contests on there now. All the Funko stuff.
Right.
Yes, yes. Our attendee of the week is going. I think we've had 2 so far, and we would love if you would apply. You get to be featured on our site. You get to share some of your awesome memories of Comic-Con. And it's just a really cool, fun thing. We also wanted to mention that we have a Patreon. So if you appreciate the work that we do, all the money that we make goes right back into the site. It goes right back into things like our hosting or creating giveaways for you guys. You can find us again on Patreon. The link is basically on the sidebar of the site.
I wanted to answer, or might not be able to answer this today, but SMS, do you mind letting us know what the U-Blog did last year, like what panels, offsites, parties, et cetera, that you all went to? That sounds like something that maybe we can work into a future podcast if if we have like no guests, or maybe if we just want to chat for a little bit longer. But yeah, we might answer that. I think if you listen to the wrap up from Comic-Con last year, we may cover some of that. But we will also try and answer some of that and get some feedback from a bunch of the other blog members and see what like maybe get a list of things that they enjoyed doing last year.
Yeah, we can totally do that, and hopefully maybe next week we can give some of the answers.
All right, so let's wrap it up for today. Thank you again to Shawn from Inflatable Design Group for joining us and letting us know about all the work that goes into those. And next week we'll be back with news and exclusives and all that kind of stuff, and a special guest.
2 special guests. Thank you very much. What? So next week, a couple of years ago, maybe it was just 2 years ago, we had Thomas Lennon on the podcast, and he talked about how he had been a friend of Eric Powell's, who, did the Goon and a bunch of other awesome things, and how they were such good friends. And every year he goes to Comic-Con, like he stops by his booth and spends all his money there. And we were like, well, how fun would it be to get Thomas Lennon and Eric Powell on a podcast together? So we are. And it's not going to be on Tuesday next week, though. It's going to be on Wednesday.
Yes, Wednesday the 31st, a special day to fit their schedules. And so tune in 8 days, not 7 days, and check out that podcast because I think it's going to be pretty good.
I think it's going to be really fun. Yeah, very excited about it. I also wanted to mention our newsletter, which we started sending this week. We actually did it.
In the comments that it was
cool. Yes. So, and you'll actually get 2 this week because we're going to start sending them on Fridays, but we didn't start working on it until Sunday. So you're going to get a second one on Friday. So our newsletters, sign up for that. It's the giant thing at the bottom of our site. You really cannot miss it.
And before we sign off, let's go through a couple more questions because people are getting some in last minute here. Stephanie asked, do you think there will be more booth signings this year? If all goes well, Fox signings and stuff were more sorely missed last year. Again, it's up in the air, and it also depends on what they feel like bringing. And we'll see what's happening. I would expect that some things, as we keep getting back to more normal, we'll just keep getting more normal, and we'll have signings and everything else that come back. But every year will be different. And then Kim says that they were at the Mattel Barbie X Mark Ryder show, and their staff was Comic-Con staff, and they said that Mattel is seriously considering going to QR codes as well. So that is hearsay, and we can't back that up, but that would be interesting. I mean, it makes a lot of sense from a cost perspective for companies to do that. It does not make a lot of sense for the fun perspective.
That is an excellent way to phrase that, James. Yes, that is an excellent way to phrase that.
If it happens, it happens, and we will all deal with it when it does. But it would be sad. So that is going to be it. Carrie, where can we find more of you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Carrie Dixon, and you can also find me on the blog Twitter. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me everywhere at Dan Regal. You can check out geekshotphoto.com for links for myself and my wife and photography and social media and all that. And also, I'm on a new podcast, co-hosting a new podcast called Citizens of Lorcana for the new Disney trading card game coming out in August. If you want to check out that, we're doing a show every week. And thank you to Beth, who gets this show into your ears and normally does all the slides when I am not driving her back from Arizona. We are, I guess that's it. Yeah. So what else is there?
I think that's about it. Yeah. We are on iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe, the links are up in the blog, or you can search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We are also on Stitcher Radio and Spotify now, and the links are in the show notes.
If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog, or tweet us at sd_comic_con. Thank you all for listening, and everybody, go shawarma. Hi, Mom.